our first thing today is we're actually going to go over our practice quiz, which the kids took in class today. This is going to be in preparation for our quiz on Wednesday for A Day, Thursday for B Day. Make sure that you have gone through and understand how to solve all of these problems, because that is what is important. We are going to change the numbers for the actual quiz on Wednesday and Thursday. So if you just memorize these answers, you will fail the quiz because the answers are going to be different. Is that clear to everybody? Okay. So that being said, I'm going to go through this relatively quickly because we've got a lot of other things we need to cover today. Our first question, and I will again stress the importance of marking the text. So right here, write a ratio. That is our task, to show the following situation. For every 6 cups of flour, the recipe used 2 cups of milk. So what is my ratio? 6 to 2. Get used to just writing out the description as well, guys. In this case, it didn't ask for the description, so we wouldn't count that wrong if you didn't have it. Also remember, unless it is specifically asking for an unsimplified ratio, you should always simplify, meaning that I should need to be able to divide this one by 2. That is my actual answer. So if you got...
The point of going over this is for you to get the correct answers to study.
That's why we told you to keep your pencils out and write down the answers. Okay? So your correct answer on this one was 3 to 1. That would give you full credit for this problem.
But you need both ratios.
Yes, you need to show us where you're starting and where your simplified is. Okay? Now, number 2, this is the one that gives the most problem, and this is part of the reason we decided to make this a practice quiz, because so many people are not doing this. Use the following information to write and label both a part-to-part ratio and a part-to-whole ratio. So we need 2 different ratios with their labels. Make sense? Okay? So I'm going to start with my label first. So part-to-part. And here's the information they gave us. There's 24 male teachers and 26 female teachers. So my part-to-part ratio would be 24 to 26. It did say label, so I should have had male to female. And as always, we should have simplified. That is the complete answer to half of the question. Okay? Our other part. I hope. There we go. Hopefully my mic is working. Gosh, it's really going to stink if I have to record this whole thing. Our second part is part to whole. Again, you should have labeled it. Yes, ma'am?
I believe the simplified version should be 12 to 13.
Oh, thank you.
And one of yours pointed that out, by the way.
Oh, nice. Yeah, see, every once in a while I do make mistakes, so thank you for catching that, whoever it was that caught it. Our second one, part to whole. Did they give me the whole number? No, so I actually have to be able to put that information together. So I'm going to use the female side, so 26 to 50. Again, label, because I said to label it, female to total. And that one does simplify to 13 to 25. Now, how many of you guys really struggled with that whole part-to-part, part-to-whole ratio? Please be honest, because here's another part of following directions. What page was showing as you guys were taking this? What did we give you while you were taking the quiz? That was on the board while you guys were taking the quiz, right? Following directions, paying attention to what is available, guys. We had that answer right there for you in case you were confused. Okay, so that's that part. Now, the last part is the rest of our points on this. Pam and her brother both have savings accounts. For every $2 that Pam saves, her brother saves $5. Write a ratio. There's our task, comparing Pam's money to her brother's money. So this one is really simple, just writing a ratio. $2 to $5. Did it say I had to label this one? No, so if you just wrote the numbers 2 and 5, we would accept that. Would we accept 5 to 2? No, because it has to be in the correct order. Make sense? Next one, make a tape diagram to demonstrate the ratio. So now I have to make a tape diagram out of it. So 2 is on top, 5 is on bottom. And we have Pam and her brother. So P is Pam's dollars. And B is brother's dollars. Yes, it must be labeled. If you did not label it, that would have been, you would have lost a point. Okay, so this question alone is worth 2 points, one for the label, one for the tape diagram. Is there anything else we need to do on that one? The answer is no. That's everything. So if Pam has $30 in her account, how much money does her brother have? So there's our question. Now, you could redo the entire tape diagram. I personally have no problem if you just use that information with your existing one and show your work there. So in this case, I know that Pam is 30, so that's 30. So that means that my ratio constant is 15. Because there's 2 boxes, that gets me to 30. Once I have my ratio constant, every box gets it. Meaning, her brother has 5 15s or 75. So don't forget, we're asking word problems. That means a full sentence answer. Her brother has $75. Any questions on any of those questions? Yes, JJ. That's works. Pam's brother. As long as you identified who it was in a full sentence and had $75, you got full credit. Even better, that's just more information. Now, here's the deal on these. Oops, another question? Sorry, Alyssa? It didn't matter which one you used, as long as you told us which one it was. You could have done 24 to 50 or 26 to 50. Okay? This whole quiz was out of 10 points. Okay? And this is going to happen a lot on these. You're going to see less questions there are points because of the way these quizzes are constructed with the Engage New York curriculum. There's so many parts within them that even though it's 3 questions, there's easily 10 points. There's actually 11 points in here. Because most quizzes and tests, we are going to hide your bonus question. We give you a bonus, we don't tell you where it is. Why do we not tell you where it is? Because as soon as we tell you it's a bonus question, I have to field this question too many times. Mr. Moore, do I have to do the bonus question? Yes, it is a bonus question. It is not optional. So rather than face that question, we just hide it. So the whole thing is worth 11 points. If you really think about everything that we've stressed and how this all breaks down, you could probably even figure out where the 11 points are. I will give you a hint. Half of your quiz is in problem number 2. So make sure that you have all of that written out. Okay? So this is now your study guide. You should have all the right answers written down so you know exactly what is expected for your test, for your quiz on Wednesday. Do I have any questions? Maddie, Madsen. Yes. Okay, so we're going to go back to the notes. I'm going to pause the video for a moment because there are several of you who still need time to write these. We'll give you guys about 3 more minutes. This is literally all there is. So put this in your notes and we'll go over it. Okay, notes today, guys, are pretty simple. We had actually already covered the part-to-part and part-to-whole, but I wanted a reminder because in today's lessons, you are going to have to be able to differentiate between those. So the part-to-part ratio is just a ratio that compares pieces of something that are being compared. Part-to-whole is a part of something to all of it. I don't think so. If anybody needs a printout of the lesson, please let us know. This Exchange can print it if you didn't bring your module. Okay, our second part. This one is going to make more sense as we go through the problems. This is actually more for a review for you as to how to do these. But when we are determining ratio comparisons, which is a lot of what we're working on today, first thing you need to do, draw your tape diagram based on the information that they have given you. You do need to pay very close attention to the language. One of the hard parts for today's lesson is going to be translating that English and making it make sense mathematically. If you've already drawn your tape diagram, it should help you to make sense of it, okay? Always remember, they must give you a third piece of information. Your task today is figuring out how that third piece relates to your tape diagram in order to be able to go to the next piece, which is finding your ratio constant. Some problems, they will give you a before and an after situation. Do tape diagrams for both. Don't try to run it all together into one tape diagram. You'll get lost, okay? Take the time, make two separate tape diagrams, one for the before and label it, one for the after and label it. That's actually going to be more for lesson 6, which we're not doing today because we ran out of time with our practice quiz, but keep that in mind. Once you have done it and you've used the information, you figured out your ratio constant, put that ratio constant in every box of the diagram. Okay? If you have a before and an after, if you found one ratio constant, you've got it for both before and after because they haven't changed any of the information for today's problems. And then finally, solve. Don't forget to answer in full sentences.
Thank you.
Questions on the notes? Okay, you guys are already on page 16, so let's just hop right off on that. We are going to start with our marking the text. Okay, County Superintendent of Highways is interested in the numbers of different types of vehicles that regularly travel within his county. In the month of August, a total of 192 registrations were purchased for passenger cars and pickup trucks at the local Department of Motor Vehicles. The DMV reported that in the month of August, for every 5 cars, there were 7 pickup trucks registered. How many of each type of vehicle were registered? There's going to be our overriding question in the county in the month of August. Now, this is, again, the way engageny sets these lessons up. They're going to give us all this information up top, but then they're going to break it down into processes so you understand the process to go through in order to be able to actually solve this. So we're going to use this information and now go through a whole series of exercises. Our first one is, using this information, write 4 different ratios and describe the meaning of each. So we have 2 parts that we need to do on this with 4 different ratios. So who can give me one ratio? First one should be relatively easy. Emma? 5 to 7. Now what's the description? Awesome. So 5 cars. So I'm just going to shorten that. I'm going to say cars to trucks. Now, I didn't ask for this, but what kind of ratio is that? Zero? Awesome. Part to part. So that is a part to part ratio. Okay, so that's 1. We've got 1 of the 4 done. What's the second one? What's another ratio we can do given the numbers that they've given us? Avi? Okay, so what would it be? What numbers?
5 to 13.
Good. Okay. Now, I really like the fact that she's brought this one up. Because 5 is cars, but what's 12? What if we have cars and trucks, we put those all together, what would we call them? Vehicles. Awesome. I love that description. Well done, Avi. So that would be cars to vehicles. Great question, Jonah. Where did you get that? She said, okay, there's 5 cars, 7 trucks. That means there's a total of 12 vehicles. Make sense? And as Avi said, that would be a part to whole ratio. Okay? So we still need 2 more. Emily, you want to do another one? Great. 192, and that's going to be total registrations to cars. So what type of ratio would that be? pulled apart. Okay, so let's do one more. Let's say, you got one? Is that the one you're going to do? Someone on my side. Jessica. What's one more we could do? 7 to what? 7 to 12? Okay, and then what would that be? What's my description? Trucks to vehicles. And what type of comparison is that? A what? Part to whole. So another part to whole. So hopefully you guys are seeing, with honestly just a little bit of information, there's actually a ton of different ways we can flip that around to make ratios out of it. Is that making sense to you guys? Anybody struggling? Honestly, you should be able to use this information. You should be able to knock 10 ratios out pretty easily. Okay, so let's go ahead and go on our next step. Now they're asking us, they're going to say, make a tape diagram that represents the quantities in the part-to-part ratios that you wrote. So what was the part-to-part? We actually only had one. Okay, 5 to 7. So it's going to be a 5 to 7. So I'll do 5 boxes on top, 7 boxes on bottom. Top we said was cars, bottom is trucks. Don't forget to identify your variables. So C is cars, T is trucks. Do we need to do anything else on that one? Anything else we need to do? What? You said yes. JJ? Because I asked the question? No, I asked the question because if I only ask a question when there's still something to do, or I only ask a question when you're wrong, then you know that they're wrong. You also have to know when you're right. And in this case, you're right. That's it. Okay, next part. How many equal-sized parts does the tape diagram consist of? So in other words, how many boxes are there if I count all the boxes in my tape diagram? Okay? Good. 12 boxes. What total quantity does the tape diagram represent? So in other words, that 12 boxes is what? 12 vehicles, okay? 12 vehicles, or in the big picture they said it was how many? How many? 192 registrations. Does everybody understand how those are related? 12 vehicles are 192 registrations for the entire month. 12 boxes in our tape diagram, 192 registrations overall. Okay, this is on your next page, so page 17 for you guys. What value does each individual part of the tape diagram represent? In other words, we're now asking, so what does each box represent? JJ? What? Oh, question, what's your question? Pass it right there. Yes, we can use the restroom. Okay. So again, back to our tape diagram. What does each individual box represent? Sean? So what does one box represent? Represents what? One box represents what? No. So there's 12 boxes in all. So what would one of those boxes represent, Latina? One vehicle. So each box is one vehicle. Oh, that is our bell. Okay, we'll catch you back after lunch. Yeah, right here's where we finished. So we talked about each box is one vehicle, but now we can use that information based on what we saw before to figure out our ratio constant. So we had 12 vehicles for 192 registrations. So one box is one vehicle. So how many registrations would that be? What do I need to do? Question? Okay, guys, let's go back to this again. 192 registrations represented by 12 vehicles, which were 12 boxes. So if I want to find out what each box is one vehicle, how am I going to figure that out? What do I need to do? Multiply what? Multiplying 192 by, so 192 times 1 is 12. Divide. Wesley? Yes. I take the 192 registrations, I divide it by the 12 boxes in my tape diagram. That's going to go once, 6. That's nothing. So it's 16. Okay, so my ratio constant is 16. Once I have my ratio constant, what do I do with it? Maddie, you know there's a board there too. Oh, she was just stretching.
You don't write the sentence yet. Leave her alone.
Losena? Awesome. So I go back to my tape diagram, and every box now gets a 16. Not a 12, 16. Okay, so if every box has a 16, how many cars do I have? 5 boxes of 16 means I have 80. 7 boxes of 16 means I have how many trucks? Sophie? 7 boxes of 16 means I have? Wesley? 112. Now, Avi, how many of each type of vehicle are registered? What do I do?
What did you say a few seconds ago? Write a sentence.
Write a sentence. So, how many of each type of vehicle were registered in August? There were 80 cars and 112 trucks. Does everybody understand that whole process that we went through? Anybody not understand it? Maybe our better question. Okay, so few key steps. Number 1, identifying your tape diagram. What ratio is going to make it up? Second step, identifying how the third piece of information relates to the entire figure. Okay? Labeling your tape diagram. Okay, go ahead. We're going to actually cross out exercise 2. We don't have time for this one. Example 2, so we're not going to do that. But I want you to go to page 18. So we're going to do this first one together, and then I'm going to give you guys a chance to practice some of these on your own. Okay. The ratio of the number of people who own a smartphone to the number of people who own a flip phone is 4 to 3. If 500 more people, and this is actually going to be really critical, own a smartphone than a flip phone, how many people own each type? So there's our question. I don't know where that randomness came from. So what is our initial ratio for our tape diagram? Emma? Good, 4 and 3. I mean, it's right there, guys. We circled it. It's the only number, well, one of the two numbers we circled. So 4 to 3 is our tape diagram. What is the 4? Smartphones. And the 3 is flip phones. Make sure you identify your variables. So that's the smartphones. And F is the flip phones. Now remember, they always have to give us a third piece of information. This is really, really critical for today's lesson. Understanding how it relates to everything else. So what was our third piece, Emma? 500 more people, and that's why you need to focus on these words. And this is actually why a tape diagram can be really beneficial. Because the tape diagram, if you've got it drawn, can help you make sense of the other words. So now if I look at my tape diagram, how many more boxes for smartphones are there than flip phones? So, guess what? They just gave you the ratio constant, guys. Because that 500 is represented by how many boxes? 1. There's one more box. So I take my 500, I divide by 1. That gives me a ratio constant of 500. Once I have my ratio constant, what do I do with it? Put it in every box. Should have made my numbers bigger, but hopefully you guys are seeing the concept. 500. So that means I have how many smartphones? And how many flip phones? Do not forget, we're doing word problems, so we put it in a full sentence. So there are 2,000 smartphones. And 1,500 flip phones. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, so here's the rest. We've got 15 minutes left, so I'm going to give you guys 12 minutes to work as a table. You guys are going to solve the next 3, and then we'll go over them together. Okay, guys, really quickly, I put the answers up here for you. Please stop talking. I will again stress the importance of marking your text. So many of you were not marking your text. Literally, those who were not marking your text when I was coming around had not written anything because you didn't have any idea where to start. The people who had marked the text, most of them were already on number 2 or 3 by the time I got to them. I know you guys want to fight me on this. I don't understand why. But if you will start to trust us and start doing it, you'll understand it's going to open everything for you. Because watch what happens when I mark my text. Sammy, 5, 3. So I have my ratio now. It's 5 to 3. Together, 160. So now I know I need to know Al together. So for my ratio constant, I take the 160 divided by 8 gives me a 20. Ratio constant of 20, Sammy sold 100, Danny sold 60. Started with marking the text to break this down. Sorry guys, the way it's set up, it's all word problems. Get used to it. Marking your text is going to help you get through this. Second one, we have Johnson and Sipple. They gave me the ratio, so that was easy to do. Total of 300. So 2 to 3 for my tape diagram. My 300, I need to do the total, which is 5 boxes, gave me a ratio constant of 60. That means Miss Johnson did 120, Miss Sipple did 150, 180. Can't read my own handwriting. Last one, ratio boys to girls, 2 to 7. Again, they gave it to me. Here's one of the keys and where your tape diagrams can help you. 250 more girls. So I have to look at my tape diagram. How many more boxes do I have for girls? 5. So I take my 250, I divide by 5, get my ratio constant of 50. That means there are 100 boys. Make sure you answer the question that was asked. How many boys are at the concert? Okay? So we don't have time, unfortunately. You can go back on the video. But let's go over the homework real quick. You'll see only 4 questions. But make sure you're answering the questions that are asked and paying attention. This one says total of 195. This one says total number of students and faculty. Okay? On this one, it's more snowboarders. Now I'm only looking at the difference in the boxes. This one, last year, 470 more students. So I want to know how many boxes there are for more students to find my ratio constant.
Flip your name tags before you go, please.
Have a great day, guys.